There is a moment in every person's life when silence becomes louder than any noise. A moment when the world pauses, friends drift, routines shift, and suddenly you find yourself face to face with something you've spent years avoiding: your own company. For many, that moment feels like a punishment. But what if I told you it was an invitation? We often confuse being alone with being abandoned. We see solitude as a sign of failure, an emptiness to be filled, a blank space that demands correction. But solitude, when understood, is not a void. It is a mirror, and most people go their entire lives without ever looking into it. Modern life has trained us to fear silence. We scroll, we text, we binge, we distract. Anything to avoid the quiet corners of our minds. But all that avoidance comes with a cost. We lose the ability to stand still. We lose the ability to breathe without waiting for someone else to make life feel worthwhile. And slowly, without even noticing, we become strangers to ourselves. Loneliness is not the absence of people. Loneliness is the absence of connection to ourselves. You can sit in a crowded room and feel completely alone. You can sit by yourself and feel completely at peace. The difference lies not in the company you keep, but in the relationship you have with your own soul. The truth is simple, but uncomfortable. Most of us don't actually want company. We want distraction. We want someone to rescue us from the thoughts we don't want to explore. But every time we avoid those thoughts, they grow. They tighten around our lives like vines, shaping our choices, our relationships, our moods, even our future. Solitude is not the enemy. It is the key that unlocks those inner rooms. There is a hidden strength in choosing to sit with yourself, to hear your own fears without running, to acknowledge your hopes without shame, to confront the parts of you that feel messy, confused, or broken. This is where the art begins. Being alone teaches you what you truly value. It reveals the difference between desires you inherited and desires you actually want. It helps you remember who you were before the world told you who you should be. And perhaps most importantly, solitude teaches you that peace is an internal project, not an external gift. If you never learn to enjoy your own company, you become dependent on others for emotional oxygen. You cling, you chase, you settle for relationships that drain you because the alternative, being alone, feels unbearable. But when you learn the art of being alone without feeling lonely, you stop chasing people. You stop begging for attention. You stop fearing the quiet. You stand on your own 2 feet, with your own gravity, your own rhythm, your own clarity. And suddenly, the world that once felt threatening becomes a world you can navigate with confidence. The paradox is beautiful. The more comfortable you become with solitude, the less lonely you feel. Loneliness fades because you rediscover the one relationship you will have for the rest of your life, the relationship with yourself. Think of solitude like a forest. At first, it feels overwhelming, unfamiliar, even frightening. But the deeper you walk, the more beauty you begin to notice. The air changes, the noise fades, the mind softens, and slowly you begin to hear things that were always there but drowned out by the chaos of the world. The whispers of your intuition, the quiet wisdom of your experiences, the truth behind your emotions. In this forest, nothing is rushed, nothing is forced. You learn to sit with discomfort until it loses its power. You learn to sit with joy without fearing it will disappear. You learn to sit with uncertainty without letting your mind race into panic. This is the art, not escaping yourself, but understanding yourself. Some people spend their lives searching for someone who completes them, but those who master solitude discover something far more valuable. They become whole on their own. Relationships no longer come from desperation. They come from abundance. You don't look for someone to fill your emptiness. You look for someone who complements your fullness. Being alone without feeling lonely is not about isolation. It's about liberation. It's about having the freedom to choose what and who truly belongs in your life. When your happiness no longer depends on others, you stop settling for half-loves and conditional affections. You stop tolerating people who drain your energy. You become selective, intentional, and aligned with your true self. And here lies the ultimate paradox. Once you learn to be alone, you attract people who appreciate your depth. You no longer chase, you invite. You no longer tolerate, you choose. You no longer fear losing people because you've already learned how to stand without them. There will still be quiet nights. There will still be moments of doubt. But loneliness no longer controls you because you've learned the language of solitude. You've learned how to turn empty spaces into sacred spaces. You've learned how to turn silence into nourishment. You've learned how to live with yourself in a way that feels like coming home. The art of being alone is not a skill. It is a transformation, a shift from seeking validation to seeking truth, a shift from chasing noise to embracing clarity, a shift from fearing solitude to realizing it was there where your freedom was waiting all along. And when you master this art, you stop feeling lonely, not because you are surrounded by people, but because you are finally accompanied by yourself.